Hey everyone, I finished watching the next Wild Force episode, The Flute. Very creative title there. Okay, my summary. The Rangers are out looking for Kite, and then meanwhile, Mandalok is trying to eat a pile of garbage for breakfast. Jindrax and Toxka put it together, and they're really proud of it, which is kind of a funny little moment. Mandalok is interrupted by American Shayla singing the Deer Zord song, and just as Mandalok says, we have to do something about this, and just as he says that, a new org materializes in a music shop, and, what is he? He's an ocarina or something? I remember, back in high school, there was, some art class that did make little clay ocarinas or something. I don't know if that's exactly what... I think there's another instrument that's kinda similar. I just know Ocarina because of Legend of Zelda. Whatever, anyway. This new org plays a flute that distracts Merrick, and he stops playing, and then Shayla gets really snippy with him, and I don't get it. I'll go more into this at the end, but Merrick doesn't really explain himself very well, and Shayla storms off, and Merrick is left kind of like, I don't know what's going on. The Deer Zord is all like, I don't like when mom and dad are fighting, and then runs off. And so then the flute playing org has the ability to put these kids in a trance dance. He plays the flute, and all these kids freeze, and then their body starts to move on its own. Oh, kind of like the Para Para brothers from Dragon Ball GT. Huh. There's other things this is kind of similar to music causing someone to react a certain way. It's also kind of similar to that one really old episode of Mighty Morphin. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. The one where the gnarly gnome plays the accordion and all the girls are hypnotized by the music and go to that cave, and the deaf girl isn't affected by it because she can't hear the music, since she's able to get the Rangers and be like, hey, this monster kidnapped the girls. And anyway, moving back onto Wild Force, okay, so the Rangers show up to stop the Flute Org, and, let's see, Jindrax and Toxica help it escape, and they take it to Mandalok, and, the Flute Org tells Mandalok that right now his power, he can only control kids, but if he had more power, he can control adults, and maybe even the Rangers. So Mandalok's like, okay, cool, and zaps Jindrax and Toxica, which I guess takes their power away, and gives it to the Flute Org, and Jindrax and Toxica topple over, and it's kind of a funny moment. Yeah, Mandalok really doesn't care about Jindrax and Toxica. Master Org wasn't a very nice person, but he seemed to have, a level of respect about the fact that, they're more useful when they're not, you know, hurt or anything. Mandalok doesn't have that same hang up. So anyway, back to, let's see, the Rangers. Cole finds Kite, and they talk a while. Cole finds out Kite doesn't know who his parents are. He doesn't really have a lot of memory about who he is. But before he can talk more to Kite, let's see. Oh, my notes jumped around. Okay. Oh, yeah. The Rangers up on the Animarium are telling Shayla about the new org, and Shayla's like, oh, crap, that's why Merrick stopped playing the music and left. I didn't think. And so then the org attacks the city, the Rangers call Cole, and Cole leaves Kite, and then they're all under the... Oh, and my notes misspelled a word here. There we go. Anyway, they're all put under the org's flute spell, and then Merrick goes to see Shayla up on the Animarium, and there is a nice little moment that kinda helps explain Merrick's character a little bit. He's been a really rough character throughout Wild Force. I don't know, there's a lot that's really weird about him that is kind of hard to figure out. And it's explained a little bit here where he's telling Shayla, it's really hard for me to be on the Animarium. It brings back a lot of bad memories. It brings back memories of the past when things were different, and now things aren't the same, and yeah, it's just uncomfortable for him, which I kind of understand it's still kind of an awkward reason. It seems like, well, you're saving the world. Doesn't that take precedence over whether or not it makes you feel awkward? So then, let's see. Oh yeah, Shayla like kind of forgets about the Rangers for a few minutes to listen to Merrick and talk to Merrick about, oh well, I'm glad you told me, blah 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 blah. And then she's like, oh yeah, the Rangers are in trouble, and Merrick's like, oh, I should go help them. Yeah, maybe. And Shayla's kind of an idiot in this episode, and it'll continue. So then Shayla and Merrick both go down to Earth, and they sing their song, which distracts the Flute org and allows the Rangers to get the chance to morph. And then Mandalok shows up. He shoots at Shayla and Merrick. Then the Deer Zord shows up, and it uses its magic to break the org's spell over everybody. And then let's see, I guess Mandalok leaves. The Flute Org just kind of stands there, and Shayla's like, yeah, Merrick, we did it, and gives him a little playful shove, and then he stumbles back several feet to the edge of the little bridge they're on, and then falls off. Then this tense music plays, then he morphs, and he's fine, and that never comes back. I don't know what the point of that scene was. Why did that have to happen? Was that something in the Sentai version? I was gonna go back and watch Gal Ranger, the episode that this is the counterpart to, but I figured, like, no, I'm just gonna take this at face value and say, what point did this scene have? It's so utterly pointless. There's no reason for this to happen. And you know what? I'm gonna talk about it at the end, after the summary. And let's see. So the Rangers defeat the Org, Toxka shows up and revives it, and there's a funny little gag with Jindrax and Toxka having bandages all over because they fell over earlier when Mandalok took their powers. It's a cute, dumb, funny little joke. Although it apparently confused some people because I went to Ranger Wiki to look up trivia for this episode, and in errors it said that Jindrax and Toxka having bandages doesn't make any sense because nothing happened to them. But in the scene, when Mandalok took their power away, they fell over. My assumption is that maybe there were stairs there and they fell downstairs. Like, I don't know, anything could have happened. We don't see what happens to them. We see them fall down, they fall out of camera. Anything could have happened. So I don't really see that as an error. I think it's just Ranger Wiki being, like, ridiculously pedantic again. And that's coming from me, who's ridiculously pedantic about the most minute of stupid details, and I'm really getting fed up with Ranger Wiki now. So then, let's see. Oh yeah, there is a cool, clever moment when the Flute Org grows. It gets its powers back, kind of, and it plays its flute, and this time, instead of putting people into a trance, or under a spell or whatever, it overlaps the Rangers' call to their Wild Zords. So the Wild Zords can't hear the call, and the Rangers can't summon their Zords. But then, luckily, new Zords show up out of nowhere and form Animus. He destroys the Org's flute, the Rangers call their Zord, and I guess Animus just sits this one out. They defeat the Org, and then the Rangers are like, thanks, Animus. And Animus is like, poof. And then he disappears, and the Rangers are like, huh, that's weird. So then Cole goes back to find Kite. He can't find Kite. And then there's a really weird bit on the DVD. It plays the next episode preview, and that narrator is back. Dave Mallow, according to Ranger Wiki. I believe he was the voice of Babu, I think, back in Mighty Morphin, and he also did the, today on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Rangers do this and that, and then Rita sends down a monster. Can the Rangers defeat this new monster? Find out on today's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That guy. I used to hear that all the time when I watched the episodes. A whole bunch of the ones I had on tape, taped off TV from when I was a kid, we kept the little opening preview. And I always liked hearing those. So, yeah, that's kind of cool that he's here, but I just don't really know why did we need a narrator now. And I was thinking about, let's see, these episodes where the narrator shows up are some of the first episodes that started on ABC Kids instead of on Fox Kids. So I'm wondering, did ABC Kids look at these episodes and they were like, huh, this isn't clear enough for our dumb little kid audience. We need someone to, like, explain things more. And they were the ones who had the influence on adding the narrator? Or maybe the narrator was there and Fox Kids took them out and then ABC Kids put them back in? Or maybe it's just a coincidence? Whatever. Anyway, let's see, all the stuff I was gonna talk about, let's see. At the beginning, where Shayla yells at Merrick about, and gets mad at him about playing the song wrong, or not playing the song, or whatever exactly. I don't know, it was just very weird. It felt out of character. In any other episode, it feels like Shayla would have waited for him to explain what was going on. She wouldn't just immediately assume that he didn't want to be there or that he was screwing around. It's very weird. It's a very, like, modern Power Rangers style thing where in the current seasons the conflicts are very forced and it just feels like the Rangers just don't stop to think a lot of the times. Sometimes they're able to turn around on it and it kind of works out in the end and it's not that bad, but here the whole episode's just not the best. I do like the Flute Org's design. He's a cool looking monster. One of the things I really like about Flute Org is he has the one eye, and he's made of an object, and it really makes me remember, like, Season 2 Mighty Morphin Monsters. That was a bit of a theme they had. Also, the lips kind of reminded me of some, like, Season 2 Die Ranger monsters. Oh yeah, when Cole is talking... Or wait, no, it's not. It's when Cole leaves Kite behind. Kite hears Shayla and Merrick sing their song to distract the Flute Org, and he says, "Why does this song sound familiar to me? Why does it make me feel sad?" And it's a cool little, like, building up of clues to who he is and like what's really going on with him. And now the weirdest thing in the episode, the Shayla pushing Merrick thing. All I can guess is this was an element from Gal Ranger, but I don't remember for sure. And I'm not going to bother going back to watch. I'm just going to talk about it based on Power Rangers alone. Usually in Power Rangers, if there's something weird that just comes out of nowhere, you can usually blame it on the Sentai footage. Like back in Lightspeed Rescue, there was an episode where there was kind of a serious moment, and then Carter grabs Kelsey or Dana or whatever and noogies them through their helmet. Okay. Anyway, the explanation, it was Japanese footage, and the Japanese characters are quite a bit different in personality than the Power Ranger characters. And then we get to Shayla pushing Merrick off the bridge. There's no Sentai footage. At least it doesn't look like it. It looks like the American suits. It looks like they're shooting it with the American camera. It has, like, that same kind of picture quality that the rest of the American footage has. So this was all completely original for Power Rangers. Even if it was based on something from Gal Ranger or some other Sentai, they still completely reshot it, especially for Power Rangers. And I don't know why, because it doesn't serve the plot at all. It never comes up. It doesn't have... The tension doesn't last long, either. Maybe there was a commercial break or something here? Which would be very weird, because this isn't the type of thing Power Rangers usually does. They don't usually have, like, a... like, false tension for a commercial break. At least not in this era. Or even in later eras, I can't think of too many times where that happens. The other thing I was thinking of was maybe this was something for another episode? Like maybe Shayla and Merrick are up on the bridge or something, and they had these elements to use, like, and they wanted to use them, because I'm guessing this shot took some setup and planning, because it requires someone to, like, fall. So that requires a stuntman. They need to have, like cushions or whatever on the ground. They need wire works for, like, if the person's, like, falling really far. They need, like, bungee cords or whatever. They need to paint out the wires. Maybe, if they even bother doing that. They need to have, like, a... Oops, junk is falling over here. They need to have, like, the Rangers set up here. They need to have Shayla up there. The lighting needs to be right so that you can see everybody. You can see all the action going on. So the scene was a very hard scene to shoot, and so maybe I'm thinking that they put a lot of effort into this scene, and even though it ultimately doesn't mean anything and it doesn't really work, they still wanted it to be in there. It's kind of, what was it? There was a joke, I think from Nostalgia Critic. He was talking about Labyrinth, and there's that scene in Labyrinth with the Fireys, these Muppets who can, like, pop their body parts off and dance around, and they sing to, is it Jennifer Connelly? Who's the girl in there? Whatever. And the whole scene is just kind of pointless. It doesn't really mean anything. And the whole joke was, the editor is looking at the movie saying, "These guys don't really add anything. Can we cut it out?" And then Jim Henson comes in and says, "Oh, but we worked really hard on it, and it looks good, right?" "Yeah, it does. Let's keep it in." Something like that, I'm guessing, is the reason why this is in here. Although I'm wondering why it was there in the first place. Like, is it there to pad out time? Because it's an awful lot of effort to go to just to pad out the runtime by a few seconds. Did they want a dramatic moment of Merrick morphing? Why would they need that? Was this done for, like, preview promos or something? Like, because I can imagine there being a promo for this episode where Merrick's falling from the bridge and they use that as the promo, like, oh, is he gonna make it? Find out on Power Rangers, and maybe, I don't know. It's such a weird moment, I don't understand why it's there. Of all things in this episode that are kind of weird, this is the weirdest. This is one of the weirdest things, because it's an entire scene that is completely meaningless. It's so weird, I don't know what to think or how to explain it. If anybody out there knows what the reasoning behind this is, please tell me, because I don't get it. Like, even if it was based on a Sentai scene, its inclusion here and its execution is so stupid. Shayla pushes Merrick, and he's like, what? And he has to go pretty far back. And it's frickin' Shayla giving a playful shove to freaking Merrick. Merrick should be able to, like... I don't know what's going on. Whatever. Anyway, I think that's it for this episode. That's all I have to say about it. So, hope you enjoyed it. See ya.